once in a generation a great voice arrives to speak for the hopes and the dreams and the aspirations of all mankind. And this seriously and deeply concerned radio station takes time now to present just such a voice. Me. Yes, I'll speak for all of us, George. We would like to salute Fred Sherwood, an Englishman. If you think you had labor problems in America, friends, listen to this. Fred Sherwood, an employee of the British Railroad, was annoyed because his relief man would be 3 hours late. So Fred's sitting there, he got a call, says his relief man's going to be 3 hours late. So he set all the signals run red and went home. Took 8.5 hours to get traffic moving again. And his union said he was perfectly within his rights. Screwed up the entire country. Just hit the button and left. Can you see Fred, sitting back at home there listening on the news? It says the entire country's bollocksed up for about 5.5 hours. He just said, Fred called me, Charlie called me, he was Charlie. Oh, yes, that's the way it goes, man. You got to push and shove. You got to, what is it? What goes to the, let's see, he who does something gets something else in return. I've forgotten about that. I didn't quite understand from the start. So much of the stuff I don't quite understand. I'll tell you, did you ever work in of course, I'm a little nervous at this time of year. It's June, it's middle of just about summertime. You know what happens in the Midwest at this time of the year? You don't know, because you don't get it here. Tornadoes. This is coming into tornado season. And as an old ex-Midwesterner, I mean, it's like any kind of a fire horse or anything like that, they always claim that they could have great instincts about things that affected them deeply. Well, I've been affected by tornadoes in my time. I don't know, how could you, everybody assumes that all the traumatic experiences in a guy's life are sexual. Oh, yeah, you read stuff like Portnoy's complaint. He didn't have any other, no traumas, like buying a used car. When you're 16, you spend 2.5 years saving up to buy a used car, and you walk past this used car lot every day of your life, and you fall fantastically in love with this car, and you buy it, and it's, the greatest thing in your life since bottled beer, and you buy this car, and 5 minutes after you got it, you discover it's got a silly putty transmission. Also with differential. That's a trauma. That's far more traumatic than most sexual things that ever happen to guys. I'll guarantee you that, man. You don't look at life any more the same. Yes. And speaking of traumas, where was that thing here? Just hold on a minute. Do you know that everybody in the world is getting to be worried about stuff that you can't put your finger on? It's that basic fears. Now, how am I going to lie down on a couch someday? And this doctor says to me, well, Mr. Shepard, will you please tell us what is this? Why are you always walking sideways? There must be a reason. Why you always walk around and you wear that pot on your head? Why is this? There has to be something. Now after all, this is $75 an hour, you can talk to me. That's what I'm here for. And finally I said, all right, damn it, I'll tell you. I'm going to tell you that day that I got hit by the tornado. Changed my view of everything ever since that time. For that tornado, we have nothing in Freud's about getting hit by tornadoes. Now, was you in love with your teacher? Or was you in love with a frog or something like that? Maybe we can handle, but we cannot handle any of this talk about tornadoes. What is a tornado? You see, most people on Fordham Road never heard of a tornado, except maybe it's the name of a hockey team or something. Or maybe they think of tornado as some kind of a Mexican thing. It's got the chili powder in it, Yeah, how about some of them tornadoes and the pizzas there? Tornado is something you eat with the Mexican beer. And I have had my time with a tornado. I just, I'm not trying to elicit your sympathy, although I am actually trying to do that. That's the truth. Has you ever wondered why Shepard, among all the people you know, why he convulsively plays the Jew's harp? There's a reason for this. Obviously, the Jew's harp's an ugly-sounding instrument. instrument of transcendent tonelessness. It's not a beautiful instrument like the accordion. God, what a rotten instrument. I've always felt that you can't trust anybody that plays an accordion. I've gone to so many bad scenes where there's a guy standing in the corner playing an accordion, and you're eating the stuffed cabbage, and you know it's bad news from the start. And there's an old slogan, you know, I don't know who says it, but there's an old slogan that says a guy that plays a Jew's harp can't be all rotten. There's something to that. Why does he play this convulsive Jew's harp? Why does he occasionally, in the middle of what apparently is a solid, sober, and a probing investigation of man's time on Earth, why does he suddenly play his kazoo? Sorry, you don't know, huh? Well, I do. The deep basic fears. Deep basic fears. You don't think that W.C. Fields was working out of the fact that he was working in vaudeville when he said, "My little chickadee, time is slow. Do you want to draw?" Why did he say that? Deep basic fear he was going to get plugged one day by somebody he gave the flim-flam to. That's right. False beards, mustaches. As a matter of fact, yeah, I know a store down in the village that sells nothing but false beards. They do. They sell giant mustaches, you know. Sideburns you can pull off. Yeah. Why? Well, you don't want to be you. You know what you are. You know, just pluck your jaybird naked. And what are you? Skinny little thing walking around under the sun. You got to hide yourself with fancy Edwardian clothes. Paste on sideburns. Mutton chop whiskers, the whole bit. I saw a guy the other day sitting out in front of O'Henry's. Got the Sidewalk Cafe, you've seen it down there, haven't you? Guy had a great big jug of sangria. Well, I guess he thought sangria was pink Jell-O juice or something. He drunk 2 jugs of this stuff, and now he's beginning to, you know, he had 5 or 6 eyes walking around his head, you know, all at once. You never see something like that. This guy's sitting there with his feet all splayed out. The only thing that would happen, though, unfortunately, drinking the sangria, and of course there was a high wind out there, too, at the same time, blowing all the dust all over him. One of his sideburns came off. He didn't know it. He's just sitting there. Was laying on the table next to it, looked like a dead beaver. So what the hell are you going to do? You know, the guy's sitting there drinking a sangria, and I guess nobody else sitting around noticed it either because, you know, they were having their problems, too. So 6 of one, half dozen the other. I'm not going to burden you with this. No, I'm not going to trouble you with this problem. I'm not going to sit around and tell you about my time with a tornado. You don't want to hear it anyway. I don't want to tell you either. Traumatic experience. What is a trauma anyway? I don't know. Trauma. Trauma is a thing made out of stuffed rice with derma on the outside of it. You know. Yeah, well, you know, you do the best you can. God's sakes, I'll tell you about it. Oh, all right. Oh, you want to know what a tornado is like? You really want to know? I'll tell you what it's like. First of all, you got to realize a tornado is uncomprehending of your fears. It does not worry about your plans for your future. I've never yet seen a tornado that was humane in its approach to things. And I have seen several tornadoes. I'll bet you've never seen one, have you? Have you, Larry? Jerry? That's why you're all sitting there with that funny look on your face of what the hell Shepard talking about tonight, like as if it doesn't mean anything. Do any of you... That's right. You see, unless you've been hit by a man-eating shark, sharks are just kind of cute things you see down there, you know, at the aquarium. That's right. You got to have personal experience with the vast forces of nature before you realize what the hell the vast forces of nature are about. That's a fact. And you don't learn about it by reading it in books. How many of you remember the opening paragraphs of The Wizard of Oz? Do you? Do you? You do not, Larry. You remember the opening paragraphs of Portnoy's Complaint, I'm sure. Son of a gun. I ain't gonna beat it. But you can't beat it, I'll tell you. The opening paragraphs of The Wizard of Oz is about this chick, you know, played in the movies by Judy Garland. Her name was, what was her name? Come on, we'll award you. Myrtle? Yeah, we'll for the purpose of argument, Myrtle. Myrtle is sitting in his house seeing her aunt. I knew you. See, that's a fantastic knowledge of literature. Did you know that? Just incredible. Anyway, Myrtle is sitting in his house, and she's with this dog. What was the name of the dog? I'll give you a clue. It was not Bowser. Nor was it Snoopy. What was the name of her dog? Okay, so she's sitting in the house, and her aunt and her uncle are out. They live in Kansas. Right. They live in Kansas, and her aunt and her uncle are out for the day for some reason or other. What was the name of the aunt? Why do I remember all this junk? Either do I. I don't know either. Glad you said that. You said the only thing you could say. I don't know. You know, I can't remember the War of the Roses. I can't remember whether Shakespeare wrote Hamlet or Virginia Woolf. But I sure as hell can remember the name of that chick's aunt that lived in that house in Kansas. Well, anyway, what happened was this. She's sitting in the house there, and all of a sudden, the tornado hit. You remember that? And man, it was the end of the ball game. It just picked that house up, and the next thing you know, the house was in Oz. And what happened? The house landed on the Wicked Witch of the West. Correct? Squashed her. Good enough for her. Yeah, remember there's a great illustration with her foot sticking out of the bottom of the house. She had these high-heel shoes, you know, the kind of shoes, you know, that are made out of vinyl that the chicks are wearing, you know, the high heels. Yeah. Wicked Witch of the West. That reminds me, this is WOR New York. No connection. Please, a little of that cheap guitar music, Larry Band. There you go. Well, Shepherd is as smooth as oiled silk tonight. You notice that? Sneaking along in the undergrowth here like some kind of maniacal snake. Oh, yes. Listen, if you're a youth type, I'd like to recommend highly that you invest $210 for a round-trip economy airfare to Portugal. Split, man. You'd be surprised that Portugal is nothing at all like Staten Island. It isn't even like Passaic. No, and for $210, it really isn't. For $210, you can experience Portugal, man. And hell, you'll spend $210 on hamburgers this summer alone. So put them into some worthwhile project. Go where all the European kids go for their vacation. $210 round trip, and you can use the ticket is good for a year. So you can split for a good long time. And if you're under 26 and over 12, you're eligible. $210 round trip, youth fare to Portugal. Food is great. People move real good. Call your travel agent. I've never had a travel agent in my life. I've had other types of agents, and I've had bad news all the way. Call TAP 421-8500 for complete information about that fantastic TAP $210 youth fare to Portugal. Go where the European kids go. Yes, indeed, my little chickadee. Thank you, Larry. Thank you. We have a little thing here we're going to lay on you. It has to do with Chinese cooking. Speaking of the Wicked Witch of the West, the sweet and sour dishes of Honan in the center of China are featured at the Great Shanghai, as well as the fiery dishes from Sichuan in the west, where the Wicked Witch lives, the succulent flavors from Peking in the northeast, and the delicious Cantonese specialties from the south. A lot of ting. And you know, cooks don't get along together, so they have to have a very big restaurant, fantastically big kitchen to hold all these very temperamental chefs. And each one comes equipped with a cleaver, big long knife. So if you'd like to try all this various food, and they really do have all kinds of Chinese food, you know. Up there, I've got it ripped off. At the Great Shanghai, you can order all these dishes, and I would like to suggest you try their Sunday brunch. It's a superb buffet. That's what it says here. It says pronounced buffet. Served from 11 until 4. All you can eat for only $2.75. Just stuff it in there from 11 o'clock in the morning to 4 in the afternoon, and they'll wheel you out. Children under 4 feet tall, only $1.50. Great Shanghai. It's at Broadway at 103rd Street. There's an IRT station right there. It comes right up next to the chopstick cleaner. That's the Great Shanghai, Broadway at 103rd. It does.
Over the past 32 years, Newsday, the Long Island newspaper, has become one of the great success stories in publishing history. Recently, we started a Sunday edition. And what Newsday has done so well 6 days a week we're now doing just as well on Sunday. For example, our coverage of sports.
I'm Ed Comerford, sports columnist of Newsday. When we started our Sunday edition, we felt there was an opportunity to do something new and exciting in sports. For example, we doubled the size of our Sunday sports section. This lets us run big action pictures and layouts. It enables us to run more sports news, especially about school sports. And since Newsday isn't trucked out from the city, we can give you late Saturday night results. Saturday is a big day in sports. That's why sports is big in Sunday Newsday.
Newsday, Long Island's own Sunday newspaper. No service charge for home delivery.
Well, let's see. We have a note here from Shoetown. Hey, listen, Shoetown has a fantastic set of Pete Maravich kids. And it says they even look fast with triple striped sides. They're made by kids, so you can be sure that they give long wear and all the great support. And since they're famous Pete Maravich kids, you'll be, just like a pro putting them on. You'll be surprised what it'll do for your hook shot. It gives you a tremendous fadeaway, too. So these are the Pete Maravich kids, and you have your choice of green, blue, or white. So I would like to suggest that you find out about these Pete Maravich kids. Pistol Pete. They're $5.99 a pair. This is a special price at Shoetown. $5.99 a pair. Pick up a pair. There are over 30 Shoetown stores in the suburban New York area. So check the white pages of your area. That's Shoetown. For the one nearest you, pick up on a set of those fantastic Pete Maravich, Pistol Pete Maravich kids at Shoetown. Great for your fadeaway shot. Fantastic.
This is Barry Farber with a skull and crossbones on this announcement. If you read to get drowsy, the Book Find Club cannot help you. If you read to stay alert and make those around you proud to be around you because they get more stimulated too, then get acquainted instantaneously right this minute with the Book Find Club. I'm going to issue a telephone number in just a minute. I'll do it 3 times. The Book Find Club is waiting for you at the other end of that telephone line. This is a different kind of club. You've got all the regular expected club benefits, extra savings on regular hardcover publishers' editions and bonus books and convenience, but it's the books themselves that make the Book Find Club a volcano in a forest of Ronson lighters. Hard-hitting books on politics, race, religion, sexual liberation. As an incentive to join now, Book Find will send you 2 extraordinary books for just $1 plus postage and handling. These books, they're typical of the books we offer, retail for about $16. Here's what you get for your $1. An American Death by Gerald Frank, the true story of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. We may not have all the answers about the assassination of President Kennedy, but you will have the answers about the assassination of Martin Luther King in this book. For contrast, Fields for President by W.C. Fields. This great comic springs the length of his chain and sinks his fangs into politics, babies, business, marriage. Call Oxford 7-1535 for a trial membership. Get An American Death and Fields for President, both for $1 plus postage and handling. Once a member, you need buy just 2 more books in a year, always at discounts of up to 30% off publishers' prices, plus postage and handling. Call Oxford 7-1535. Operators on duty right now. Oxford 7-1535, or send your name and address, no money, to Book Find, Box 1, WOR, New York 10018. That's Book Find, Box 1, WOR, New York 10018. For immediate action, call now. Oxford 7-1535.
All right, I'll tell you about I might as well lay it on you now. I don't want to, kids listen to this. I don't want to scare them. But I'll tell you about how it is to be in a tornado. And it happens, see, a traumatic experience, fellow victims, has to happen at a time when you are particularly vulnerable. So one day, I had buttons all over me. I had a hat, in fact, that had nothing but buttons on it. I was 16. It was in the year of my 16th summer. And just about 2 weeks before that, I had just gotten out of school, for the vacation. You want to hear about how you can suddenly change your whole view of life? All right. I had just gotten out of school, like in, June, a couple of days, maybe June 3rd or 4th, school was out. And I rushed around, try to get a job for the summer. Because I'd gotten this work permit, and I had an idea that if I got this great job in the summertime, I could buy all this groovy stuff I wanted, like I was building a transmitter as a ham, you know, and I was going to buy a car. That's really what my basic idea was, to get this car. And where was the car? Well, it was on a used car lot. And you know, one of these special used car lots, have you ever noticed used car lots have all these light bulbs all over the cars? Have you seen those light bulbs? Well, now those are not just ordinary light bulbs that you have in your house, you know, just rotten old light bulbs. Do you know that used car dealers, there's a special light bulb for used car dealers, and it makes the paint glow. It's a special kind of, has special rays in it. So you can take a car that looks like, leftover mashed potatoes in ordinary light. You stick it under these special bulbs, the used car lot, and man, it comes on like the Taj Mahal. I mean, the paint glows and everything. It's the special light bulb, see? So every day I'm walking past Friendly Fred, the Hungry Armenian's used car lot, and he had these cars there, see, with all the light bulbs. And it was this one car, and it was a Ford V8, and light bulbs hanging on, you know. Jeez, fantastic. I mean, I got oh man, you talk about getting the hots for something. I really had them for that car. I could taste it. And I'd look in the window, you know, and I figured if I got a job, I could really make it big with this car. No telling how far I could go. Because cars are very important. This is a basic thing with people, see. Man is a ambulatory creature. That means he walks around a lot. There's no other creature that migrates like man. I mean, you haven't heard recently of a herd of elephants moving out to Ohio, have you? Not recently, and you won't. They just walk around in the same place. Hardly any elephant ever turns to another elephant and says, you know, I'm getting tired of this scene. Why don't we go to Cleveland? You know, it just doesn't happen. Man has a basic urge to go somewhere else. And of course, part of that basic urge is the belief that if I did get someplace else, it would be better. It's part of the basic problem. And then you get there for a while, and you discover your knee still hurts, and you still don't make out, and then you say, well, now what I have to do is go to Alaska. Right now there's a lot of people got the urge to go to Australia. And there's a lot of guys in Australia who've got the urge to go to California. A lot of guys in California got the urge to finally come back out and make it big in the East. So there are guys who figure if they can only get to Zagreb, it would work out. If you can only get this little island off the coast of Spain, you can finally write that novel, right? Forget it. You either are going to do it or you ain't. And you're going to do it just as much in Rabbit Hash, Kentucky, as you are in Madeira, off the coast of whatever it is it's off the coast of. And so I got this plan, see, I'm going to get this car, and I could I could taste it. So I would discuss it with Flick and Schwartz and Brunner about the car I was going to get. And sure enough, school's out, June 3rd, I go around like mad. I get my work permit. You remember the work permits? Go and I get my work permit, and I go around trying to make the scene, get a job. And they had this bulletin board in the school, all the various jobs that were available, see if you wanted to apply. Well, I applied through this post office box number. It just says apply at box 6SJ7GT. Send your qualifications. Well, I had fantastic qualifications. After all, I was a first-string guard on the football team. Plenty of qualifications. They can use a lot of guards in a lot of places, I was a quick study. I was the only guy on our football team that learned our plays in less than 6 months. All 3 of our plays. So, I was a quick study. So I figured I had the world, right there. And I went down, I filled out the form, and I waited and filled out a lot of other forms, went over to the gas station, asked them if they needed anybody to work there, nobody. And by God, not more than 2 weeks after I filled out the form, I get this letter in the mail saying that I should show up at the employment office, the steel mill. That was a steel mill. I mean, I hit the double jackpot. Because everyone knows, it's big money down at the steel mill. So I go down to the steel mill. I'm with about 28,000 guys. If you ever sat in the middle of about 1,000 guys waiting to be interviewed in the employment office. It's a very interesting experience, you know. And I'm sitting there with all these other guys, and gee, some of them were 9 feet tall. Other guys, you know, had muscles bulging out behind their ears. Other guys had these gray suits with pencils sticking out of the pockets. You know, everybody looked very official. See, all I had on was my letter. You know, I figured if I wore my sweater with a big H on the front, see, they would be impressed. Yeah, I figured, you know, I got my letter. See, so I sit there with my H, and sure enough, they call me in. Let's come in, Mr. Bullard wants to talk to you. So I walk in, here's Bullard sitting back there, and he's got these chromium teeth, you know, he's looking at me. He says, "Is this your, Brack, is this your application here, your name, Brack, is this your name?" I said, "Yes, indeed." He gives me a good long look, and he says, "What position you play? You play football?" And I said, "Yes." You know, I had these little footballs sewn all over my sweater. You know, when you play football, they give you these little cloth footballs you put on there, see, to show that you played football and not badminton, some other big contact sport, see. So I had these little footballs all over there, see, with numbers and stripes and all kinds of stuff. And he says, "What do you play?" I said, "Well, I'm offensive guard. Actually, I play linebacker quite a bit." "I remember you." I said, "You remember me?" He said, "Yeah, didn't you make that fumble against Whiting one night?" He did remember me. I did make the fumble against Whiting one night. I'll tell you how it happened. Are you curious what happened about the fumble? All right. It was one of my great traumatic experiences. Night game, 28,000 people out there. And I'm playing linebacker. You got it right. And all of a sudden, without any warning, those crumbs from Whiting pulled a quick kick on us. You know, they were lined up from a straight offensive lineup, and all of a sudden the guy drops back and he pulls a quick kick, and it went whistling over my head. I turn around and run after the ball, you know, and 3 or 4 other guys run after it. They caught us completely flat-footed. Shepard picks the ball up. I don't even want to talk about it at this time. Shepard picks the ball up, and I turn around and I see that it all worked like a picture. My interference is already formed. Shepard takes 2 steps, and he ain't got the ball. I don't know how it got out of my hand. Nobody touched me. It's gone. It's magic. This is what's meant by a traumatic experience. It's not explained by ordinary logic. The ball got out of my hand. I don't know how it got out of my hand. Next thing I know, some guy from the other team, they had these blue and white uniforms, picked it up, and he was gone. I remember the huddle after that. Guy looked up at me, our quarterback. He says, he just waved his head a little bit back and forth like that. And I said, "Well, what are you going to do?" And he says, "You did it all right." And so this guy reminded me of it. See, he's sitting there. Have you ever had, you know, an experience where a guy sitting across the desk from you reminds you of something you didn't want to be reminded of? So he says, I remember you. You made that fumble, didn't you?" I said, "I did indeed." So what's the matter with you anyway? I said, "I don't know. What do you mean? I didn't come in here to talk about football. I want a job here." Said, "We can't have guys walking around to fumble like that in the crucial moments working for us." I said, what are you doing, forming a football team here? You know, I said, "I got my letter. I did some things right." He said, "That's true." So he started stamping at things. So, you know, be careful of guys that got rubber stamps on their desk. Them guys can be mean, you know. And he starts writing little things, stamp small. I like to make that stamping sound. Sound good, doesn't it? So he starts stamping my application. He says, "Here, take this down to personnel, son." And he gives me the paper, and he turns away, and I could see immediately the interview is over, and he hits a little button that goes ding dong, and they bring in the next victim, see? So I go out, and it looks like I'm hired, you know? It says personnel. It says hired. So I walk down the corridor there, and this big sign says personnel. So I walked up to the personnel man. I give him this thing, and he says, "Very good, very good. Let's see, all right." And he starts writing stuff down. And he looks up and he says, "Didn't you make a fumble against the Whiting, against the Oilers here last month?" Yeah. I said, "Yes, I did. I certainly did." I said, and I'll tell you another thing I did one time. I said, "You know, I played on the ball team. Did I tell you about the one that did I tell you about the one that hit me in the teeth one night?" Yeah, we was playing against LaPorte. I believe it was LaPorte Slicers. I was playing third base. This guy hit a slow roller down the third base line. I come charging in at it, took a bad hop, hit me right in the mouth. 3 runs scored. And they gave me an error on the throw, too, because I picked up the ball and threw it into the stands. Oh, yeah, there was another one, too, I did. I'll tell you about this one. Guy hit a pop-up, you see, back at third base, down the third base line. Well, I run back, and I waved the left fielder who had it in his left pocket. I don't know what made me do it. Left fielder coming in, he's got it in his hip pocket, and I come charging back. And look out, I got it, Joe! I reaches up, I didn't lay a glove on it. 2 runs scored. Let's see, there was another time, bases loaded, I come up to bat, right? Bases loaded, I come up to bat. Okay? What do you think I've done? He says, no, what did you do? Hitting the only triple play that we hit into all year. I hit into a triple play. He says, you hit into a triple play? Well, I never hear much about guys hitting into a triple play. Hear about guys making a triple play, but you hit into one. I said, I did. He said, okay. He stamps it on. So I move on further down. Well, to make a long story even longer, I got the job. And the job consisted of carrying mail around the plant. Now, I like that job. I'm going to tell you, I like that job because, first of all, it was a job that it put a man on his mettle, It did. I mean, you had to stick in there. You had to hang in there. You had this leather bag, big leather bag. You've seen these mail bags that mailmen have? Well, I had a big leather bag they give me. Beautiful bag, And it would be filled with all this plant mail. It had all these brown envelopes with things like it says hot plate smelting scale works on exciting places like that. Cold strip shipping, little things like tin mill Kruger Labs. You never heard of any of these things. Well, I did. How about this one? Flat plate double scales. How about that one? I knew where that office was. I knew where all them offices were. It's things like Bessemer Converter Oiler. That's different from the Bessemer Converter number 2AC. There's another office, another set of guys. Different mail. They got a lot of porny literature in that office. But nevertheless, I would carry the mail, see? And I would carry it from 8 o'clock in the morning to maybe 5 o'clock at night. And I'd run like hell all the time. See, just run with that mail, and I'm sorting it as I'm running. See, I'm throwing it into the box, and I run out into the gravel between the buildings, and I'm running down. This was all out in the open. See, this was not running around in big offices like carrying the mail over at the Lever building or Seagram's building. This was in the big steel mill. Now, a steel mill covers about 5 miles. Tremendous thing. Sticks out in the lake there, see. Well, one day, just like today, nice day, right? And I've been working now for about 2 or 3 weeks. And I feel that I got the world, right there where I want it. Now, I know the route. I'm delivering the mail. I got this money coming in. And I'm going to own this Ford one day very shortly. And then Schwartz and Flick are going to be sorry for what they said to me. I got this car. I'm going to do the whole thing, see. And I'm running out. This feeling, you ever get this feeling of exhilaration in your head sometimes? You know that feeling where, like, everything's working groovy and it's an exciting feeling. See, your head starts to blow, man, with all this great feeling. See, and I'm running down between 2 big buildings. And it's that moment. This is when you're most vulnerable. It's at that moment when you think that everything is working great, that the great, giant, enormous, fantastic iron fist is clenched in the sky. And it's getting ready to squash you like the smallest cockroach that ever walked around under the sink. Caught you. Right? Well, that's the time that's the time of extreme danger. Anyone will tell you, if you ever live in the jungle, when you think everything's working great, that's the time you are being stalked by a saber-toothed tiger. It's only when you're worried that you have a comparative chance of surviving. So stay in there and stick with that worrying, friend. That's the best thing that could happen to you. It'll keep you alive. That any guy who's worried never dies. Do you know that? A worried man does not have time to die. Have you noticed that almost invariably guys, as soon as they retire, kick off? Well, that's because Bullard has stopped biting him in the vital regions, which has kept him alive. Oh, yeah. And so I am walking along between these two buildings. The sun is shining. It was kind of a muggy, hot day, spring. See? So the summer's coming on in a week or two. And it's June. And the juices are flowing. I'm going to tell you, the juices are flowing like fantastic. See, because the last stop on my mail route, which was just coming up, the last stop, see, I had about 15 different stops I would make on this run, was the tin mill of sorting. Now, I'll have to explain something about the tin mill. That sounds dull, doesn't it? Tin mill of sorting, right? Oh, no. The tin mill of sorting was a big building that had about 1,000 unbelievably sexy-looking chicks working in it. And they worked under these blue lights. They had blue lights, and they're inspecting tin, see? And I don't know what this blue lights did to them, but I'll tell you, just a fantastic mammary effect. I mean, it was like you were looking into some gigantic orgy right out of Hieronymus Bosch with all those green lights and fluorescent lights, and 1,000 chicks are in there flapping this tin around, and the tin was flashing, and I could hardly wait every day to get to the tin mill, see, just to walk around and look at all those incredible chicks, you know, and figure one day I would cut one out of the herd. Maybe cut 4 or 5 of them out of the herd, see, when I get my car, before, you know, drinking a beer and going down and bowling and all that stuff, you know, and taking this chick named Josephine out or something like that, you know. Well, I'm thinking about this. And I'm filled with the ecstasy of existence. You know what is it? The ecstasy of life. Joie de vivre. You know what is it? Of course you do. It's like a human walking cake of yeast. Pulsating. The glands all open. My pores were all open. I could feel everything happening around me. My feelers were moving out, ready to grasp and to devour life like an enormous blueberry pie. In fact, I was devouring it. I was picking my teeth. Oh. I'm walking along with my sack of mail. Now, directly to my right is a freight car. I'm walking between 2 big tin buildings, these buildings made out of corrugated iron. You've seen this kind. This is a mill, and the one off to the right is boom, 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 boom. It's a mill. It's a 14-inch merchant mill. Tremendous mill. It's about a mile long. And off to my left was the rail mill, the number 4 rail mill. Boom, 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 boom. Machinery's going. They're making rails. You know what is it? Rails. You know, you've seen rails. When I'm walking between these 2 buildings, which were not more than maybe separated by about 40 feet of nothing but gravel, railroad tracks, and these tremendous freight cars. And I'm walking along the freight cars. Now, directly ahead of me, I can see the scene now. Directly ahead of me is an opening at the end of these buildings where the shipping docks were. And there were 2 tremendous high-tension tires. You know, these great big high-tension towers, enormous ones, like 100 feet high. Great big steel structures with great wires hanging off of them. And there were tanks all around there, some trucks parked. And I'm walking towards this. Boom, 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 boom. It's booming to the right, left. Boom, 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 off to the right, see? And I'm thinking of those gals. I'm thinking of all these girls under the blue light that I'm going to see any minute now. And I could, you know, the excitement, nothing like sexual excitement to get you going in your job. See, and I'm walking along there. I'm thinking of nothing. The world is my thing. And I'm pulsating. The ground is thundering because of these machinery. And all of a sudden, I am aware of another sound. I look around. It's the sound. It sounded like a train coming nearer. I look around. There's nothing on the tracks. There's nobody around me, just me, these big machinery. That's it, me. These 2 buildings, the freight cars. I look back at me. There's no train, but I can hear it. It's going, the sound of a freight train coming. You know how a freight train sounds when it's coming? You've heard freight trains? This roar, see? It's getting closer and closer. And I'm looking around, see? By this time, I'm no longer thinking of the chicks in the tin mill, see? I'm wondering, where the hell's the train coming from? When suddenly the train comes roaring in over the top of this building, which was about 70 feet high, to my right. Whoa! And it's a tornado. One of these gigantic funnel-shaped clouds. I'm looking right at the side of it. Have you ever seen one of those things close up? You can't believe it. The building, the roof is stripping off like pieces of paper. Enormous chunks of the roof are just flying. Whoosh, whoosh, they're flying. I see this great big tower, this high-tension tower, slowly starts to topple right in front of my eyes. The wires are bursting. Boom! great shocks of electricity. I see there was a transformer about the size of your average living room. An enormous, it just falls straight down. Ooh, pow, lands right on the top of a brand new Ford. Nothing but wheels. That's all you can see, wheels sticking out of the bottom of the transformer. And this thing screamed. I hold on to the side of the freight car, and all my mail just goes whoosh, gone. It was all over in probably 20 seconds. And I'm hanging to the side of the freight car. I see the flames coming out from where the Ford is now on fire. Chunks of the building has disappeared into the sky. That great big funnel-shaped cloud moved on towards God knows where it went. Nothing but devastation for miles around. I rush into one of the offices, and here these guys sitting in the offices. They're drinking coffee. I say, the tornado! The tornado! It almost got me! And these three guys look up and say, what are you talking about? They didn't even know that a tornado had passed within 50 yards of them, devastating the world. I picked up the phone. I called my office, which was about 200 yards from where this actually happened. I says, I lost all my mail. The tornado hit. I says, what are you talking about, you nut? What do you mean? Did you lose your... What? I said, my mail's gone. It almost got me. Nobody believed there was a tornado. I was the only guy that saw it. And out there, the Ford burned. The transformer hissed. The building lay at a crooked angle. And I could hear the sound of a retreating cosmic freight train going off into the distance. I've never been the same since. Never been the same. Why do you think at moments of stress I suddenly whip up my Jew's harp and start playing some totally meaningless music? Why? Guy's got to keep the evil spirits away some way. That sounds to me as good as any way. It's never been the same. Some nights I lay in a sack and I can hear the sound of that approaching freight train. I hang on to the edge of the building. You imagine an enormous, uncontrolled tornado hitting the Pan Am building and wipe out the whole top 45 floors. Carry the whole top of the building over to Trenton. They wouldn't even know it. Yes. Who knows what evil lurks in the heart of God knows what. I've never been the same.